The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
All right, and welcome to this week's edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Woldo. I'm pleased to be joined by my co-host, Greg Buchanan, voice of the CPCA. How are you?
Hey, Moses, not too bad, not too bad.
Yeah, good week. Great week for weekend for Chucks.
Yeah, 4 good solid days of sun in Wainwright, and now hopefully 3 solid days of sun in Little Pine.
Yeah, well, here's hoping, and I'm joined by the MLA for Vermilion Lloydminster, Richard Starkey. How are you?
Thanks, Moses. Great. I'm good.
All right, perfect. And good news is Premier Redford's not here, so you can speak your mind. Don't have to go toe party lines.
Boy, so. Right off the top, he just goes after me.
Well,
I'm sure that nothing I say today will bother the Premier in any way.
Well, perfect. We'll try to keep it that way and keep it civil.
Sure.
Meanwhile, we'll go with the NHL and, of course, the draft. Nail Yakupov taken number 1 by the Oilers, but other news was, of course, some of the trades that happened. The Stahl brothers being reunited, playing with each other in Carolina. Jordan Stahl getting traded for an 8th-round pick, then ended up being Pouliot, a defenseman, and Brandon Sutter as well. Now, does this trade work for both the Penguins and Stahl?
Well, yeah, I think it does work. You look at Pittsburgh, Jordan Stahl didn't have any place to play. He was going to be the 3rd center on that line and that team. Salary-wise, too, they knew that he's going to be getting a big chunk of that pie. Moving him to Carolina, he's going to be maybe 1 or 2 centermen there. They might move his brother onto the wing. It's a great combination. And Sutter adds a little bit of sandpaper like any Sutter from Viking, Alberta. Yeah, I think it's a great fit for both.
Yeah, it's a good move. I mean, you talk about the Stahl brothers reuniting, and you get the Shen brothers reuniting as well as a result of another deal. But what Greg says is right. I mean, Jordan Stahl, the 3rd-line center, with that salary, that doesn't fit. So to move him, because Malkin and Crosby, as long as Sidney's concussion issues can get resolved, Crosby's not going anywhere.
Well, you have them both at 1-2, and I guess that was the big issue. He didn't want to be that 3rd guy. He did that for many years, got a ring out of it. Good for him, but now he wants to actually be a top-line guy, which he's more than capable of doing. But let's talk about the guys that Pittsburgh are going after, a guy like Suter, a guy like Parise. They might even move Parise to the wing as well. Do these deals make any sense, Richard?
I don't think the Parise deal makes sense. I mean, again, you got a guy, you got Malkin, you got Crosby. I mean, unless Parise is comfortable on the wing, and I guess I don't know how he'll fit in there. I mean, I like Parise. I think he's a great player. He's great with the media, great in what he does. I mean, I'm not entirely sure why New Jersey isn't working harder to keep him, because I mean, when Parise leaves New Jersey, I mean, sure, they made the finals, but, Travis Zajac is your sort of top guy? Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a big hole to fill if Parise leaves Jersey, no doubt. But Detroit's also a team that's in the running to get not only one, but both of them, Suter as well as Parise. So you look at it, Suter's going to fit in well to Detroit. They lose Nicholas Lindstrom. Mm-hmm. Great addition to their back end. Parise, if you have your choice between Detroit and Pittsburgh, it's 2 pretty good organizations to choose from.
All right, let's move on to City of Brotherly Love, Philadelphia. Of course, there's 2 brothers that are going to be joining together. You just kind of foretold it just a little bit. We're talking about the Shens, of course, Luke and Braden playing together. Philly had to address a need defensively. They picked up a former first-rounder in Luke Shen. The other way, Toronto, not too bad in terms of the forwards, but they wanted some more scoring. Van Riemsdyk hasn't really proven himself. Both these guys have been underachievers. Riemsdyk, however, during the playoffs was fantastic. But how does this deal work for both teams?
Well, like you say, the Van Riemsdyk going to Toronto, I think that makes sense from Toronto's standpoint, but it is a bit of a risk. I mean, he was hurt a good chunk of last year, but I think his playoff performance in the last couple of years, has shown that this guy can be really awesome. And I mean, you saw the same thing when he played World Junior. Yeah. I mean, he was one of the leaders on the American team. He was one of the leaders on the American team in the Olympics, and I think he has that potential. Brian Burke is the kind of guy that he'll fall in love with a guy, and then a year or 2 later he just sort of sours on him, right? And I've never been a Brian Burke fan anyway.
I'll say this though, Shen was not a Brian Burke pick.
No,
that was before he got there. But he's still part of that.
And therefore, he can distance himself from him, right? But you know, you just in some of the things that Burke said as he's moving Schenn, you could just tell that there was, you know, he's a fine player. We'd like to thank him for his, you know, those are all the sort of the nice things you say as a guy's being punted out of an organization, right?
But I've never seen a general manager that gets more press time than Brian Burke. How many general managers in the NHL get more press time than Brian Burke? He gets more press time than the top players in Toronto. But besides that, I think JVR going to Toronto, unfortunately Clark MacArthur are going to hear this, but it's a graveyard for players in Toronto, unfortunately. I think it's a great fit for Schenn to go to Philly. One forgotten name out of all this is Chris Pronger. Where's Chris Pronger? Likely done. So you look at their back end, Jersey really took advantage of their back end in the playoffs. Philly's back end is slow, they're not tough enough. You put Schenn back there, he has some quick feet, he's a big body. Maybe not aggressive as they would like, but I think it's a great addition for Philadelphia, a guy they really need.
The change of scenery might be good for both guys. Would you? Was that safe to say?
Yeah, JVR possibly could reunite or get his game going again, but it's a fishbowl in Toronto. If you have one bad game, you're thrown under the bus by a few players and thrown under the bus by the general manager.
Including Burke.
Yeah.
Eventually, let's see how that will play out. Let's talk about the NHL awards. Most of them were pretty straightforward. You knew who was going to win, Malkin, Hart, that type of thing. But let's move to the Calder. Gabriel Landeskog. Good move. I thought maybe RNH should have gotten it, considering they pretty much had the same amount of points, and RNH played 20 fewer games.
But if you look what he's done for his team, RNH, you know.
You could say the same thing. That power play was amazing while he played. Yeah. And when he left, or when he was injured, you saw a significant drop-off with the team at least.
Yeah, I just thought he contributed more for his Colorado team. You know, I think he was more of a both ends kind of player.
I think it's an acknowledgement that it's tougher for a rookie defenseman to make an impact than a rookie forward. Yeah. I mean, we heard about a lot of that during the draft, that, you know, using one of your high draft picks for a defenseman is more of a risk because, you know, these guys don't always pan out, whereas, you know, a high draft pick forward tends to be more of a sure thing. I mean, I think what they looked at was what Landeskog did, you know, in his first year, you know, in a tough position, in a tough place to be an impact player. And but you know, even Landeskog himself said if Nugent Hopkins had played the full 82 games, he likely would have racked up 70 or 75 points, and probably would have been a runaway. But you know, as it is, and I mean, I don't know how the voting exactly works, but I would venture to guess that there's a little bit of a bias towards, you know, some.
It's not going to take away from Nugent Hopkins' career at all.
No,
you know, he's going to have a great career. I think Landeskog was more of an impact player for his team.
He's got something in common with Wayne Gretzky, because Wayne Gretzky was also shafted when it came to Rookie of the Year. But in the meantime, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Gloves Are Off.